Good evening, everyone. Today is September the 13th, 2017. Tonight's topic was how many more? Platform and positions. Well, I'd like to explain how many more, okay, if I could. Today in the Spokane area, Washington State, we had another school shooting in this nation. This one happening here in my own state. And those of you listening from Washington have probably already heard about it. Three young people are no longer with us. Our thoughts and prayers go out with the families affected by this and the students of that high school. We can ask the question why. We're fortunate that the young man doing these things didn't hurt more than what was already hurt. There was one individual at the beginning who tried to put a stop to it, trying to talk reasoning into the young man. He was the first one murdered. So how long is this thing going to stop? How long is it going to take for it to stop? I really don't know. But I knew, though, that gun control is not the answer. Education, parental guidance. That means the influence in the home. What are you letting your child see? What are some of your child's actions? And start looking for red flags. Don't ignore them. Take the time to talk to your child. I know it's hectic days that we face, but at the same time, we cannot lose faith or chance or trust with our young people. They need to know that we can reach out to them. They need to know that we want to hear what they're saying. And so I'm asking all you parents out there who still have children, and if they seem to have a very strong desire, that is not something that you yourself did. Just in case, let me make sure that I've got my sound controls checked here. We may restart the broadcast because you may not be able to hear it, but I'm hoping that we'll be able to continue this here real quick. As I mentioned earlier, part of the reason I'm wearing black tonight is because of those high school students in the Spokane area were shot and killed. I'm also, we can't start pointing fingers, but we do know that a lot of it begins in the home. Gun control is not the answer the way a lot of people want it. We'll never get anything done if we try to take weapons out of the hands, guns, rifles, knives, nunchucks, whatever. We need to give them a different way to think, a different purpose, one not of hate, but of compassion and caring for their fellow citizen, their fellow student, their friends, their families. We need to start thinking about those things. What are we not doing to reach these young people doing this? So I'm going to leave that there with open dialogue. But I'd like to have everyone in their thoughts and prayers and good tidings go to the families in the Spokane area. Those parents who have already lived through this horror. We've got to stop it, don't we? Okay, moving on to the next topic. I talked about platform positions, but let's talk about Dave's recipe for cooking. Okay, this is a cooking show tonight, and I'm going to give you the ingredients of my recipe. Now, I'm not going to give them all to you right now, but I'm going to give you some of the most important spices and herbs and the full flavor of the text itself. I want you to be able to savor each and every morsel that I give to you tonight. Taste it for its clarity. Taste it for its texture. Does it leave a nice aftertaste in your mouth? Is it like that fine wine that you may have tested in wine country or at some Kentucky bourbon show or even a beer? I hope that the words are somewhat in the relationship to alcohol content, that tonight's conversation is intoxicating for us in such that we'll want more. We'll want to share with other people. But before I get to the recipes and cooking with Dave tonight, last evening, Tuesday evening, the 12th of September, I had the opportunity to just go to a local city council with mayoral staff there. I mean, it was a full-blown city council. Everybody was there last night. It was a very good, we had at the beginning of the meeting, there were 5 of us who had comments and questions, statements that wanted to make. And so what we did was, this is my wife. She's bringing me
Hi.
She said hi. She's bringing me a combination Asian pear and a plum with honey, 2 tablespoons, organic honey. And so that's one of our recipes. And she put it in a smoothie for me, so it's easy to drink. I can eat a lot of fruit that way. But the meeting at 5 last night, I didn't have a chance to have a smoothie, but when my turn came, after other people were trying to convey their thoughts on the construction that was going on in the city, also suggestions on how to eliminate traffic congestion, and applauding a local event that was held citywide. It was a really good evening. And then I got to get up, and those people that had issues about traffic and etc., those responses were directly answered by the city manager. And also they were also referred to some of the other people within the traffic division, and also any legal counsel that they may see that they had to talk about. They were given full access to that last night after they voiced their concerns and opinions. Well, my turn came up, and I wore a tie last night, so you know, okay, it seemed to be the business attire for the council and professional dress for the council women and other professional women that were there. It was a professional evening for them, semi-professional. The men, of course, were jackets and ties, and I went up there in my jacket and tie and my blue jeans and sneakers with no socks. Okay, that's David. Okay, I'm part of the hippie generation. You know, the peace, love, Woodstock era. That's my generation. Vietnam, my generation. Reagan's trickle-down economics, regrettably, my generation. Union busting of the air traffic controllers, my generation. A lot of good things that did come out of my generation. It was before me, but I was a young teenager, middle-aged teenager when all these things were happening, the civil rights marches. I was a young teenager then. The first Arab-Israeli war of any significance, which pretty much set the current-day borders, was the War of 1967. I was 15 when that occurred. I read the book called Start Zion. It was a good read for a 15-year-old. But back to the city council, okay? So I got up and I introduced myself. Hello, my name is David Strider. And I touched on something that they were talking about, and that was the upgrading of their traffic grid. And I said, I know that with all new improvements, it takes time, there's inconvenience. Sometimes you don't get to go as fast as you want to. It doesn't seem like anything's ever getting done. Excuse me. And I said, that's why it's important to understand traffic flows. And I said, if you understand the traffic flows, chances are you're going to get where you need to get a whole lot faster and safer without the congestion. And then I introduced myself again. Hello, I'm Dave Strider. I'm a candidate for the position of U.S. Senator to represent the state of Washington in our nation's capital. I am an independent. I'm here to hear your voice, to speak to you, and answer your questions. And with the mayor's permission, I'd like to hand out my contact information to you and your staff. That's when I was able to give. I had business cards. I didn't come in there to campaign. I just came in to introduce myself. And I gave them to it. And then I said, are there any questions or comments? No. But the look on their face was utter surprise, happiness. And that was on the city management side and the council and the mayor. And there was surprise. I think perhaps I was the first candidate to publicly come to them and let them know who I was and that I was here to be with them, to help them in Washington, D.C., and help them get the things done in their state that they need to get done. Help them be the better city that they're trying to be. I stayed during the whole meeting, and when I did, I took notes, not as well as what the mayor would have done. I understand she's quite the note taker. I would have loved her taking notes for me last night. But however, I did get some of the highlights on positions and everything, and bills that were passed, motions that were passed. It was an interesting evening to see how government works on the local level. It's been a long time since I've been to any council meeting, and I just enjoyed myself immensely. Thursday night we're slated for another location here in the Puget Sound, but it was the city of Fife. Fife, that is F-I-F-E, Fife. And they're located along the I-5 corridor, right next door to Tacoma, Washington. Right on the gateway, they are a port city, the Port of Tacoma, and the Puyallup tribe and the city of Tacoma all share a central location, beneficial to all three parties. So that's what my evening went with last night. And I didn't get a chance to talk. It was just an introduction. And I didn't get to speak with anyone afterwards. They were all in concern of things that had just passed city manager had just retired, and he was given many awards last night. And I wanted them to have that moment. They worked hard for that moment, and I already made my introduction, and I did not want to walk in to a celebration and a farewell to one of their beloved. The city manager who retired last night had over 31 years of public service in the Puget Sound, and he ended up working in five his last tenure. So let's get back, and thank you. And last night, we were live here. Campaign manager Greg, who's been volunteering and working with this campaign for about 3 weeks now, a little bit longer because it took actively though. He gives himself way too less credit. Greg is a fantastic contributor here, and I really appreciate the efforts that he's putting out for this campaign. But last night he held a volunteer staffing, and I'm sorry to see the frowny faces. Tell me why the frowny faces. Am I talking too much? But I'm looking for it. I enlarged my screen so that I could read comments a whole lot easier. I hope everyone's hearing and getting the broadcast in good shape. But we were talking about the recipes, and I appreciate what Greg did last night. He did a lot of organization for the campaign last night, and please continue to work with Greg as much as you can. He's an energetic individual. I am happy to have him with me, and he also helps write some of my speeches for me. He's written 2 so far, okay? He said, well, I don't know if this... Yeah. He's a good Joe to have on your team, and I'm grateful that he's on mine. And by you coming and joining me this way too, all of us become on the same team. Now, what I have here are some of the ingredients for my recipe. It's called Dave Strider for U.S. Senate. How do you bake a senator? Okay. We have veterans. Now, mind you, American veterans, we go down here in alphabetical order. And so a lot of the ingredients may not seem to go, but I think you'll know when we get to the spice. One of the biggest components in this is the budget. Now, recently I was introduced to MMT, and I'm learning and going to learn a whole lot more about this. It's going to be an integral part of my campaign to help me make sure that we have the appropriations we need to fulfill our commitment to the American people. So we have American veterans and the VA. That's the first ingredient. We have the budget. That's the second ingredient. Civil rights. Oh my goodness. It's been marinating for a long time. And I think it's time that we get the civil rights out, knead the dough a little bit more, and get ready to bake it up for the American people. Our civil rights have been taken away from us. They called it the Patriot Act, where they had access to us. I'd like to think that if someone was in my neighborhood and they were doing something a little shady, that I would watch them a little bit. I would not spy on them, but I would want to see, you know, what kind of person they were. I'd go up and talk to them, introduce myself, get to know them. The civil rights, we need to make sure that we have them. Are people getting shot in the streets? The fact that if you're against Nazism and white supremacy and bigotry and everything, it seems like you're the bad guy, or you're good guys, but there's good guys on the other side too. And let's not forget about the economy. Now, this is a sauce that really makes things go, the economy. We're going to talk about how we can also, in this platform, how we can bring that to the most savory sauce, one that you'll want in every dish. But the economy, how do we mix it up? How do we simmer it? Education. If you don't have education, you're not going to understand anything about these ingredients. But education is the key, and not 6 grades of education like Jethro Bodine had on the Beverly Hillbillies. I mean, he does this double not, and he had graduated 6th grade. That was a first for the family. So, we talk about an education that enriches the individual, gives them the ability to dream about technology, scientific, maybe philosophical things. Maybe they're musically inclined, they're gifted in arts. Maybe they're a great orator. We don't know. But guess what? Without education, without guidance, it's a hit or miss. With education, we can identify those young people and we can tell them and show them and let them know that we are with them. And where do you want to go with this? Right? Let's think about how we can make things better for our young people, okay? Education. And that goes all the way through your graduate, possibly your doctorate, possibly. How far do you want to go? Education. Energy. We are the greatest nation on this planet right now. Technology. And I'm not saying greatest because we have the strongest military. I'll get to that ingredient here pretty soon. But we are the greatest nation. We have been a beacon of hope for so many people. So with energy, what do we get? We have the young minds, we have the people to do it, we have the industry to put it out, we have the will from the American people to do it. Please, electrical grids and companies, think about this. If every homeowner was grid tied to your system and producing excess power, think how much more you'd be able to provide to industry at a much lower rate. Oh, wait a minute, you already do, right? No, cheaper than what mine is because they use so much, and that's why we have brownouts. You won't have to worry about that no more. Well, as the consumer, the end user, as we're producing more electricity than what we actually need, that goes back into the grid. That grid also supplies industry. In whatever shape or form, it supplies industry. And in the case of a city or a municipality, it lowers their cost as well. Energy, we can do it. This whole country, based on our manufacturing abilities and everything, we might be able to jumpstart it and have this whole nation, 278 million homes, all under solar or wind power, depending on your location. In 10 years, we could. We already have energy efficient appliances, don't we? Well, let's make them more energy efficient. Let's use alternative power sources to provide our homes with the energy they need. That way, in the event of catastrophic events like hurricanes, tornadoes, floods, earthquakes, volcanoes, tsunamis, we have alternative power sources to rely on. The environment. That also helps the environment because we're putting less carbon pollution in there. That was another ingredient that I thought was important, is that if the bowl we're mixing all these things up in isn't a good bowl, it'll break and everything will be lost. So the environment, we need to take care of it. Number 1, take care of our water. Number 2, stop the pollution. Number 3, take care of our water. Prosecute those who pollute. Number 5, take care of our water. Prohibit anyone from producing or dumping into any type of waterway that could eventually have to be recycled for use. Foreign policy. 189 bases we have worldwide, we need to really consider pulling a lot of them out, like maybe 180, maybe 170, maybe 150. 100 to start right now. We don't need those men and women in harm's way. We don't need to be casting the idea that we are an empire. Period. We need to bring our men and women home, repurpose our military, and by doing so, we can have the bridges that we need repaired or built. We can have the highways we want. We can rebuilt. We can have the waterways done and rebuilt, seawalls completed. We put our military people to work. They can go in, if they can do it under fire, think of what they could do in uniform, showing America. It's veterans rebuilding America, not out there fighting wars for the 1%, but rebuilding America. We could do it. We could do a lot of things. Our waterways. We could also do with pollution. We could have the science of the Air Force and our Army and the Navy at our disposal, more for civilian uses. When those Amtraks pulled into Houston during Harvey, that was the most wonderful sight that I saw. It was a perfect example of what I've been saying about repurposing our military. Make them readily available in natural disasters. And they didn't go there they went there as a Marine Corps unit, but they were responsible to the first responders already there, the people in charge. They were there to execute what they could not do. But foreign policy, we need to come home, plain and simple. No more supporting ISIS, Al-Qaeda, any of them. Come home. Let the Syrian people decide. Israel, stop bombing Palestine. No more money, Israel, until you start showing a little bit of human rights. And if God so deemed that you were supposed to have that Palestinian place there, he would have given it to you a long time ago. And if you lost it because of your disobedience to your God, then F you. You were supposed to be a light to the world. Read your freaking books. You were supposed to be a light, not a destroyer. No more money, Israel. No more money. None whatsoever. Because I will fight you on the Senate floor. I will go and I will fight you I will go state to state and I will fight you. Genocide is not an option. You don't have this temple anymore. You don't have any prophets anymore. And until you get somebody to destroy that Muslim temple, you have no temple. But like in the days of your persecution of one of the prophets, I believe his name was Jesus Christ, what did you do? You persecuted him. You had the Romans do it because it wasn't in your law. And you didn't want an uprising against the religious order. Religion is enlightening to mankind, but it's also the destruction of mankind. Because religion is man's own creation. Plain and simple. To control. And you took it and you warped it. Nah. No more money, Israel. No more money. Palestinians need restitution paid for them. Perhaps the $2 billion a year that we have promised you can go into restitution to the Palestinians and rebuild their area. And I tell you this, there'll be UN troops all over your butt next time you go in there. Next time you fire off a frag round into that. Next time you destroy a school or a church or a fellowship meeting or a hospital or indiscriminately shell a residential area while the people sleep. We'll push your borders back further than your weapons. And we'll put a no-fly zone of all Israel flights, whether they're commercial or military, over the Palestinian people. You don't like the cookie deal. I'm tired of you screwing people. I'm tired of the wars. All of your enemies are defeated from the 1967 war. All of your enemies are defeated. And you're trying to start new ones. Well, the United States is not going to stand by. At least this candidate and one-day senator is not going to stand by while you commit genocide in the name of your God and receive money from the U.S. taxpayer. No more. No more. Netanyahu, your leadership, perhaps you need to go to the Hague and be tried for crimes against humanity. That's a thought. It now isn't. So there we go on foreign policy. And Korea, oh, for Christ's sakes, think about it. His army isn't even close to the doing anything. Anything he shoots up in the air, if we wanted to, we could shoot it down. Do we want to risk the capital of Seoul, Korea being bombed with artillery shells? We can't stop those. We can stop the missiles, but we can't stop those. Now, this is my favorite one. This is one of the main ingredients, and that is health. Healthcare for all. Single payer? Single payer means you pay a small fee every month. If you're a senior citizen, you don't pay anything for your health insurance. We're not going to be around that much longer anyway, so why do you care how much it costs? Okay? And perhaps by treating us with the top-notch medical facilities and instruments that you have, perhaps the next generation can be free of what they could get. Perhaps you'll see something in our systems which has us kind of desensitized against some of the pollution on this planet that we as people have created. Maybe we can unlock some secrets with senior citizens, anyone who is retired, disabled, whatever. If you're over a certain age or if those categories, no cost healthcare, no cost prescriptions. But for the families and everyone else, there would be a small monthly fee and a small copay to help defray some of the cost, to make it like are paying your care. Everyone would be paying the same. Families would pay a rate slightly higher, but not much. The single person, these are examples, okay? Let's use examples. Let's just use examples. Single person, okay, he pays $25 per month. A family with 4 children would pay $50 a month. Now, mind you, all of these families, those children are one day going to be in the workplace. They're going to be working. They're going to be out of school, out of college. They're going to be out there producing in the workplace. Once they start the ability to work and they have an income that's coming in, but until they would graduate from college or whatever the case may be, they would be under their parents' coverage. Mind you, Social Security card holds that all together. Now, I'm getting into depth on some of these things. Immigration, but single payer. single payer, low premium, very low copay. Everyone's included. Everyone pays the same amount. Pre-existing conditions, what's that? How'd you know it was pre-existing? Okay, so, I mean, even if it's been diagnosed before, doesn't matter. You are getting treatment for it. Immigration. We know what the Trump administration has done here in the last 10 days with DACA. 800,000 young men and women being told that they're going to be deported. What happened to them as young people should not be held against them today as an adult. They should be able to be granted that citizenship or the pathway to citizenship. They have proved themselves by being students. They've gone out of school. They've been in their militaries, public service. They've been into so many things. They're good kids. They need that chance. They've been living the American dream, believing in the American dream. We can't take that away from them. 2013, I went to Thailand. And my longtime girlfriend, my longtime friend, we decided that we would get married. So in 2013, I went to Thailand. And as soon as I was there, we had a civil ceremony. A few weeks later, we had a formal Thai wedding, traditional Thai wedding. It was good. It was fun. I had no intentions on leaving Thailand. It's a beautiful place. The people are beautiful. Late June, early July, I applied for her visa to come to the U.S. Later, mid-fall, in October, she got her visa to come to the USA. November, Thanksgiving weekend, we were here. Now, we did the right thing. We followed all the rules. We followed all the steps. Okay? We don't fall in the same classification as DACA kids. But I think they've proved themselves time and time again in their efforts and their actions and their history while being here, aside from being brought here as children without no consent of their own, with their parents, without no knowledge of laws or infractions that they may have committed. So let's think about them. But back to the story with my wife and I in 2013. We got the visa, applied in late June, early July. By mid-October, she had her visa to come to the USA. So from January to late June, mid-January to late June is about almost 6 months. Wouldn't you say about 6 months? Okay. Application applied for late June, early July, August, September. 2.5 months later, let's see here. Yeah, there we go. 2.5 months later. 2.5 months later, what do we get? Her visa. We did everything right. We played by the rules. Now, it's important that everyone else comes to this country also plays by the rules. But in the case of all these children, I'm sorry, that doesn't fit the criteria. They were minors, and minors cannot be held accountable for something that they did not commit knowingly by having a full aspect of the law. So I believe that those young people, they need a stay. They need a stay to keep them here so they can stay here. And I think we need to be exercising state rights a lot more when it comes to this and challenge the federal government, because the federal government, our Congress, our Senate, has not come up with a plan workable for immigration for these people that have come here across the border illegally, one way or reason, whatever the reason. They crossed the border without the proper authorization. And we shouldn't hold against it because we don't know the circumstances as to why they came here. We do know that there was a lot of turmoil, civil turmoil, revolution going on in South America and Central America, and then drug lords in parts of Mexico. We know that people were trying to escape that because they weren't getting any remedy from their government, because we had our own Monroe Doctrine to dictate how we would determine what happened in the Americas. Manifest destiny. So those people coming here, what if they were refugees? Well, thank God we were to the north of them, all right? There was only one border they had to cross of any significance, and that was the United States of America, the land of the free, the home of the brave, the defender of all that is wrong. Our young men and women have perished. I'm not saying that what they did was right, but do we know the entire circumstance? Infrastructure. We need that infrastructure to connect everything that I've just talked about. High-speed internet, high-speed rail, bridges, highways, hospitals, housing. Our United States military, if we fully activated it into it, it would be one of the biggest civil defense operations since Dwight Eisenhower initiated the interstate highway system. Yes, Dwight Eisenhower, a Republican. He has a good idea. He warned us about the military-industrial complex. Now we want to repurpose it. My campaign, I want to repurpose it. And many are with me on this repurposing. That means using our military for building things here in America and repairing things in America that have so long gone unattended because all of our money went into the military budget. I guess that's why we're stronger than the next 8 nations. That is a good smoothie. Thank you, Giadapa. But we could use our military to do the infrastructure. We could have them help rebuild our failing infrastructure, our waterways, the water systems within our cities. When our people go into harm's way, they take with them the ability to maintain health, safety, security. The chances of you seeing a GI starve anymore is next to none when you consider the infrastructure that has been built into our military. We can take putrid water and make it safe to drink. It tastes so good, but it's safe to drink. And think if they had the ability to just go in and clean up a city. It could be done so quickly. We could have CB battalions, engineer battalions all over this country, sweeping across this country, rebuilding America. One highway, one road, one school, one water plant, one water delivery system. And taking care of those mercs out there on native territory. That's right, eliminating those mercenaries hired by oil companies because they've invaded sovereign territory, native First People territory, treaty signed by our government. They have encroached on First People's rights. And with our military back here, we should be able to send them in, take care of the mercs, arrest them, throw them in Leavenworth or some other place. Gitmo comes to mind. Because for acts of terrorism against a people who were not defended, and take into custody anybody in government which permitted it or issued permits for that encroachment to occur. But the armed mercenaries, bye-bye, so long, farewell. Time to go. And Gitmo is calling your name. Gitmo is calling your name. Our military, we could do more with it instead of killing people. They're having computer geeks sitting at a drone terminal, just not eyes, boots on the ground, eyeing that target. And the possibility of collateral damage is evident. You wait until that sucker moves to where there is no collateral damage. Okay? One shot, one kill. That's a good motto. No collateral damage. Poverty. Poverty has many different names and many different faces. Poverty is the mother or the father that's working two jobs, 60, 70, 80 hours a week, and they're still just barely making it. Poverty is going to the food bank to get the necessities that you need to feed yourself and or your family. Poverty is not being able to afford the repair on your automobile. Poverty is not being able to afford automobile insurance for that automobile. Poverty is not being able to send your children to school with lunch money. Poverty is not being able to plan one day past the next. Poverty is not knowing your future. We need to lift people up out of there who want to come. We need to give assistance and also counseling to those who have lost so much. And let it go back into the person's choice, not because the economy or society has turned their backs on them. Poverty also includes veterans and their families. And it may be the loss of that veteran's life that plunged the family into poverty. Special consideration for those who gave everything. When's the last time you mailed a letter? I kind of like using U.S. Post Office, and I think there's a word going around that they may have to raise their rates. Well, I got a chance to look at a report that was up there in regards to the United States Post Office, and they're operating in the red. Do you know why they're operating in the red? Because Congress mandated that they fund their retirement program completely for 20 years. Their retirement funded. The United States Post Office, founded by Benjamin Franklin, set that up, and it's worked pretty good. I mean, think about the places that are way out there in BFE. Think about those places. Think about those places that don't have the ability to, they may not even have a telephone, but they've got a mailbox at the end of their lane. And the mailman or mailwoman, they come through and they put their mail in there. And they'll walk down maybe a mile or two to their box there and get their mail. Good luck trying to get FedEx or UPS to do that at the same cost that the United States Post Office does. It's not going to happen. The Congress and Senate want to privatize Social Security, or not Social Security, well, they want to do that too, but the United States Post Office, Congress and the Senate want to privatize the post office. The reason they want to have it funded for 20 years is because that'll be a lot of money that Congress will say, well, we got the right to access that, and they'll take that retirement from those postal workers. They let how many people during the 2007-2008 crash? They lost everything, but the banks were bailed out, but you and other people were not. Some of them probably became homeless because of that BS. And they're doing it to the post office. These people, I mean, they are part. During the 50s, they were part of America's civil defense. And what I mean by that is that they were able to know from their area, the places that they served, the houses, the mailboxes, that they walked up to the house and put it on the box. The one out in rural BFE businesses, they knew these people. The carriers knew these people. The clerks at the desk knew these people. That became America's civil defense because that way the leaders of that region, they could get a report from the post office as to the extent of any damage that may have occurred. Were the roads impassable and everything? And they could get that very quickly from the U.S. Post Office. And now we're wanting to privatize these people. They have been competitive their whole existence. They are an American institution. They do not receive any money at all from the budget from the federal government. There is no money earmarked. They are self-sustaining. Self-sustaining. The United States Post Office is self-sustaining. And they are forcing these individuals. They're not giving it to corporations to fund their retirement plan for 20 years. Why the U.S. Post Office? Because they want to privatize it. They want to sell it parts off to FedEx, to UPS, and to anybody else doing mail service. They want to sell it off. They want to make some money off of it. They're going to take that retirement platform because if they don't have retirement, they can't claim it. They'll have to wait for Social Security, and that's going to be something else that they're going to take, and then there won't be Social Security to take. Cost of living. Social Security has not got a cost of living. $3 a month is not a cost of living increase. It is not a cost of living increase. What is the percentage that the U.S. Congress gets? What is the percentage that U.S. government employees get? What is the percentage that other people get? And some people may not get a cost of living if they haven't been at that particular job long enough because it doesn't pertain to them because of some minute, bizarre law or writing inside that clause that stops that person from getting that cost of living. And we all know how long the federal minimum wage has been froze at a particular level while inflation and prices go up. Just an example, gasoline prices have gone up over $3 per gallon here in the Puget Sound. Now, how retirees, we don't drive that much. We go to the doctor, we go to the grocery store, we may go visit, we may go to the park. But everyday commute, we're not part of that race anymore. We're retired. We're trying to enjoy life. Come on. You want to dictate to us something that we paid into? I don't think so, Ryan. I mean, it's really hard calling you Congressman Ryan. It really is. But out of respect, I will call you Congressman Ryan. But you are cheating the people. You listen to to the Proverbs of Anne Rice. I believe that's her name, Anne Rice or something, that she just didn't see people dead. Her theories on things, and you seem to embrace that, and you call yourself a Christian. I don't see how you do. That's another thing that eats the hell out of me all the time. But saving the Postal Office, U.S. Postal Service. You want to boycott corporate America? Boycott FedEx, boycott UPS. You want to save an institution that has been serving America for a very long time? The United States Postal Service. Support them. When you're thinking about an overnight package, United Postal Service. You're thinking about an express mail envelope, United States Postal Service. Funnel all your business into the United States Postal Service. They are self-sustaining. They're hard workers. Many of them are veterans. Okay? United States Postal Service. And Social Security. Social Security. It's a big thing going on now. They want to cut it. They're not going to give a cost increase. They're talking about cuts to Social Security and Medicare. Thank you, Mr. Ryan. It's not theirs to cut. The redistribution of America's wealth is going straight to the top. Trillions of dollars every year are going straight to the top. How do I say trillions of dollars? Because our budget isn't trillions of dollars. Okay? They're basing their budget on our tax revenues. Mistake. 53 cents of every tax dollar goes where? Into our military-industrial complex. There has to be changes. Taxes. We need to pay local taxes because our states cannot print money. Our states do not have the authorization to print money, and if the Congressional Budget Committee does not allocate or appropriate any money for states based on their needs, population, and anything that's out of the ordinary, such as tropical storms, hurricanes, tornadoes, fires, like what's happening here in the West Coast right now. All we got to do is appropriate the money, but they're not appropriating it. Okay? Judicial reform. I saved that one for last. Judicial reform. And that's what I want to close on tonight. We put away the wrong people and we put them away for the wrong reasons. We need to make sure that the people that we are listening to are the people who voted for us. No prisons for profit like our Attorney General has interest in. No sending young men to jail in adult prisons. Judicial reform. Judicial reform starts in our municipalities and works all the way to our Supreme Court. Judicial reform. Making what is right and what is the law in America. And if the laws that are being made in America do not pertain to those who are elected officials by the people, I'm sorry to say, you make a law, you are bound to that law as well. What is good for one is good for all, plain and simple. We do not have kings and queens, we have elected officials. We are not an empire, we are a republic. And that is why I and others, progressives, independents across this nation, are going to go to Washington, D.C. as a block. Not to block things, but to achieve the American dream for you, your neighbor, your families, all of you. Not based on who you are, what you are, or where you came from, but as an American citizen, a human being. Judicial reform all the way up. I'd like to also remind you here in the state of Washington, if you haven't already, sign and pass around Initiative 940. Again, our thoughts and prayers go out to the families and students in the Spokane area who experienced a very horrific event today. We'll be back again on Friday. We have another meeting. Should something say that otherwise, I'll be back here tomorrow night in that event. And I'm hoping that we can talk about some of these issues that I talked about tonight. Send me your comments, share this broadcast as many times as you can. And I looked at all my friends lists, and I know that if there were everybody who are my friends, and then all the people that they have friends of, we'd have pretty close to 25 to 50,000 people punching in every night. So I'm asking you, share. Even if you're not in this country, share. It's important that people out there in the country know that there is a progressive movement in this nation, that we're trying to take back our country, that we're trying to make sure that our laws are kept, that our laws are enforced, that no one is getting special treatment based on who they are or what they are. Good night, Washington. We'll see you soon. Reach out, love somebody. If you're married or you got somebody close, let them know you love them. Thank you for your help, your support, your listening. We were a little short on comments tonight, but I'm hoping that in the rebroadcast of this production that there'll be additional comments that'll be added. Share. Dave Strider for U.S. Senate, your independent choice in the state of Washington. Thank you. Good night. Sorry about that. I guess I was a little bit too comfortable there at the end.